Hey, Jeremy, thanks for joining us on the show, taking time.
What's happening?
Of
course.
Hey,
Yeah, I put myself in the secret apartment for you guys. Look at this.
I love it. I love it.
I should say I felt bad because you sought me out at South by Southwest. And
I did. I think I even saw you like coming out of the movie, and I was like, Alan, oh my god!
I know. But
it was one of those,
I felt bad because
it was interactions.
Yeah, thanks, and then we just parted.
I know. It was one of those interactions though, which are always awkward for like filmmakers, where you see like, you know, critics you admire and you like at a film festival seeing your movie, and you're just like, wait, I hope they liked it. I hope you liked it. So yeah, I totally remember that.
Well, I have to confess, Jeremy, I haven't seen the movie. I have seen the trailer, which I want to share with our audience. This thing looks epic. I've made documentary. I made a documentary myself. I know how hard it is, especially when it's archival documentary. So how did you get started? And then we'll take a look at the trailer, but tell us how the project began.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a bonkers story. It's so crazy. It's these 8 like artists, instigators, troublemakers, whatever they are. They were mad about this mall coming into their town in Providence, Rhode Island. You know, it kind of demolished their neighborhood. It gentrified it. You know, development gone to hell. And they decided they would do something, and they snuck into the mall, which is this busy mall. I'm sure your viewers and listeners know it's Providence Place Mall in Rhode Island in Providence. They snuck in, they found a secret space, they decided to move in. And it was a kind of Providence legend for many years. And a lot of filmmakers were trying to make this documentary. Even like scripted, even studios were coming at these people asking about a scripted version. And somehow, you know, I felt like I was like in this like right place, right time, maybe had the right pitch. You know, I made it, my previous film they really liked, the one before that they had seen. So like, I just felt like I was like in this perfect spot for them to say yes. And fortunately they did. Maybe the time was right.
Well, I got to say, Alan has been raving about this documentary since he saw it at South by. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's take a look at the trailer and give people a taste of this movie. This trailer is amazing.
This is an incredible tale. Artists set up an apartment inside Providence Place Mall, going undetected for years.
Let's start it over. Let's start it over. Let's start it over here.
Play the audio.
No, we're starting it over. We're professionals here, Alan. So let's start it over. Here we go. I don't want people to miss a second of this.
This is an incredible tale. Artists set up an apartment inside Providence Place Mall, going undetected for years.
We all hated the mall when it went up, right? Nobody wanted that to happen.
Shortly after, a developer comes in and says, I'm gonna knock down your home.
I just had this idea, we should live in the mall.
It seemed like a very absurd fantasy and perhaps a great challenge. When the mall was being built, I saw a space that I could not figure out what it would be used for. We went looking for that anomaly in the architecture, and we snuck ourselves in there, and we took out our flashlights. And there it was. It started the conversation immediately.
We need to develop this underutilized space.
There was a real necessity to build a wall there. It was like 5,000 pounds of cinder blocks. It's important to emphasize there's this underlying sense of dread that we're going to get caught at any time.
Wow. So what is it? Is it a prank? Is it a work of art? Is it a social experiment?
It was like this alternate universe that's within the real world.
It talks about gentrification, capitalism, everything being commodified.
The apartment was the side project to the other stuff.
We were like a little elite strike force team of empathetic artists.
Such a magic thing to take a space from the mall.
I gotta say, I love the trailer. I wanted people to see it. So I think
Thanks.
so. I'll call you out one thing. Why is there no film threat quote? Where's
I
the film threat
know.
quote from
I think
Alan?
There was
your
an
publicist
there was
said
a
we will approve any quote they want.
Yeah,
I mean, Alan had just such a wonderful review too. There really should be. That is,
Yeah.
seriously.
Now,
Yeah,
is the
I mean,
movie
to me,
coming
the
to?
movie is the sheer audacity of your subjects here to not only it's one thing to just crawl into a space and live in it, but to actually create an apartment in that space with, I think there was a television there, certainly a couch.
Yeah,
and
there
a
was a
bed.
television, a PlayStation, and this went on for 4 years in this busy mall. It was not like, a quick little thing. They had this going on for 4 years, like evading security, going in and out of the mall, also eating at the food court, watching movies at the Cineplex, and they just kept it going. In their boldest move, which you see in the trailer, they decide to build a wall to kind of conceal the secret apartment even more, and they smuggle in 2 tons of cinder blocks through the mall and build this incredible wall.
Yeah, and almost got caught, which was
yeah, it's bonkers. And you see all of this because they also were filming this like nearly the whole time, and it gets into this in the film, but they had these little tiny cameras that they like bought at Radio Shack for $100. Don't forget, this is, the early 2000s, and they bought these little tiny cameras. All 8 of them had them, and they were just filming it for themselves. They weren't filming it because they wanted to make a documentary. They were filming it because they're like, really, unique thinkers and visionary artists. And they're like, we have to record this. And the footage they got is just, it's incredible. You can't believe what the footage you see. And it's like really low quality, but it's still really awesome.
Now, how did you gain their trust and then be able to make this? And what did you have to work with assets wise? Hundreds of hours?
Yeah.
How'd you go about this?
Well, as I mentioned, there was a number of filmmakers over the years that like went after them, and they always, these are artists with like a lot of integrity. They didn't want the project to be turned into this kind of like New York Post, sensational story. People lived in a mall, and I think they were worried about any movie like making it come off as like such a prank. Look, I love the prank stuff. I mean, I'm all in on the prank stuff. I love that. This is like the prank to end all pranks. But like, I know, they were also doing all this like really interesting artwork at the same time that was not pretentious, was not them trying to make a name for themselves. They weren't trying to get money. They were just doing this really interesting sort of charitable, really interesting stuff. They were going into hospitals in children's wards and like creating artwork there. They were creating memorials for 9/11 victims. They went to Oklahoma City on the reunion of those bombings and did memorials there. And they were doing this for like no recognition, no money, no anything. And I think maybe my pitch was that they really responded to was that I was so interested in that side of their stuff too, and how it like connected to this crazy secret apartment, so that it was more than just the story of, this incredible prank, which is incredible, but that it gets to these like other levels.
Now we've got nearly 2,000 people watching live and a lot of questions. Here's the website here. It's in theaters, or was in theaters a couple weeks ago.
It's in theaters now.
Great.
Yeah. And Chris, we're doing something cool. We're like, we were like, we're not streaming. Don't even ask us about streaming.
Good.
Yeah.
Hollywood can use that as advice.
Exactly. Like people are like, oh, where's it streaming? I'm like, it's not, people. It's in theaters. And we've really been focusing on theaters only. And we're now we'll be in 50 theaters this weekend. And we're already booked over, 120, 130, something like that.
Alamo Draft House downtown.
Oh yeah. We were at the
awesome.
LA Alamo Draft House. We were also at Vidiot's. Now we're in Santa Monica, but we're in a lot of great cities, whether it's Austin, San Francisco, Boston, all over Rhode Island and New England, New York. We've been killing it at the IFC Center. So yeah, I'd love you guys to check it out in a theater.
secretmallapartment.com is the site. Let's go to questions from our audience here. Alan, if you would read these. There's
Sure.
a lot of questions. Wow, here we go.
Okay, ADLS 24. With the release of this film and malls going the way of the dodo, have you heard any similar stories happening anywhere else in the U.S.? In fact, is the Providence Mall still thriving, or is it?
So this happened, on the Providence Place Mall. I'm sure people know it. It's this big, huge mall on 95, and it's having tough times, like a lot of malls. And I think what's so interesting, also, you watch this movie and you're like, oh my God, this is only not even 20 years ago, and it was like a totally different era. This time when people went to malls, and malls were these centers of our lives and communities. And there's so many movies we all grew up with, whether it's, Fast Times or Clueless or Dawn of the Dead. And malls are like so essential. But then you realize, like, wow, we don't really have that anymore. But yeah, whenever there's another story about people secretly living somewhere, a million people email it to me like, here's another one. So yeah, I think people love doing this. There's a real fantasy of living in something like this.
More comments and questions here.
The real mall rats.
It's true.
Dutch McColland.
He's right.
Solomon Thornton. Archival documentary sounds cool.
Yeah, the archival, and Chris, I know you asked about the archival. They had filmed 25 hours of footage when they were in the secret apartment. And, which is great, for a documentary filmmaker. You're just like, oh my God, this is awesome. But it still was like limiting, but they got such incredible stuff. They have interactions with security guards. They have deep conversations about what it all means. They talk about gentrification. One of them, accuses another of them being squatters, and they're not. It's just like, even from this like really low res video, it just got like incredible stuff.
All right, ADL's 24 again. Does the film go from addressing the anti-corporate culture of mall rats of days past to the loss of mall culture in our current society?
Not so much. I think it really looks at this time period where malls came in, and, in the case of Providence, they built this mall. They thought it was going to help swing all the economy of their city. And it was just like this horrible idea. And these people responded in that way. But sort of like what I'm saying, like you watch it now and you can't help but think like, oh, wow, all the dead malls in our country. And I heard recently that there's only going to be like 100 malls in a few years because they're just dropping more and more.
Especially the indoor ones, like that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
More comments here.
Yes. From Rachel Mollier, the elderly millennial. I saw this at the Portsmouth Film Festival, and it's amazing.
Thanks, Rachel.
I got to ask you, though.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, but Jesse Eisenberg is one of your producers. How did he get involved, and what kind of role did he play in the film?
Jesse's been a big supporter of like my films. This is the second film of mine that he produced. The first one was for a documentary I made called The World Before Your Feet, where it's about a guy walking every street of New York City. And Jesse just like loves, I don't know, he just loves these kind of offbeat stories. And I think he loves the idea of like not having to like go and shill and hawk for his own movie. He doesn't have to be like, oh, Now You See Me Too. What an incredible script. Like he loves just supporting, other films. He did 25 Q&As for The World Before Your Feet, which is crazy when you think about it. And he's already done a ton of Q&As for Secret Mall Apartment. So I think he really just loves it. He loves that side.
Amazing. All right. From Ruby for 2, literally Phantom of the Mall.
It's true.
It's Okay to Laugh asks, can you touch on your distribution? How did you find it? Any pitfalls? Because I saw the movie in 2023. So already
2024.
2020. That's right.
Last
2024.
Year.
Yeah. What was that journey like to finally get distribution?
Okay, so this is also kind of, maybe it's punk rock, maybe it's stupid. You guys tell me. I basically was like, these distributors, I don't know if they're that great these days to like cool indie edgy movies. So I went and I raised money, and we're self-distributing it, and we feel like Yeah, thanks. We're like, we could do a better job. We feel like we're more kind of tapped into viewers that want to see it, and we're just like not. Also like, I feel like distributors sometimes really prey on indie movies in a way that's not so great. So we're doing it ourselves, and we decided this was what we would do from the get go.
I'm seeing it this weekend at the Draft House.
Sweet.
Because I didn't know it was like there. So that's awesome. And also you can do it. There are individual theaters, independent theaters. Yeah. You can just call them the Frida Cinema. My movie played there, a documentary. We played there, did a premiere there. Alan remembers it. I don't, but Alan told me about it. It was so that you can do this. And totally. even my movie, Attack of the Duck, it's distributed on digital through indie rights, but I have the Blu-ray rights. So there's all kinds of ways you can make up your own distribution.
Totally. And I think filmmakers, they kind of get into this mindset like, oh, did you get picked up? Did you get, what's going on? And, Alan knows another film of mine called Lily Topples the World. And that was like a big acquisition, like one of those.
Wasn't it National Geographic that picked that one?
It was Discovery.
Discovery, that's right.
Yeah, and it was like a big dollar and all that. But I kind of at the end of the day was like, I don't know if this is better than just us going out alone and kind of controlling it. And that was the big learning experience for me. And yeah, those indie theaters are great. They're like almost like little mini film festivals. They have their own people and mailing lists. They market. So yeah, people can really do that kind of stuff.
And they really, it's all grassroots. Like with the Frida, we do our award show there every year, Award This, which I assume you're eligible for, Alan. You'll be in this the next year.
Lily Topples the World was nominated for
yeah. We'll do like, award stuff this year, but we'll see. We're like more about just kind of sharing this movie with viewers, because people have so much fun watching it. They're just like, wow, it's kind of a reminder. First of all, it's a reminder that like, wow, documentaries can be really fun and entertaining too, but it's also like one of those like little small movies where you like have a blast when you see it in a movie theater. So like, that's also something that we think is just really cool.
I know. I was going to say with Lily Topples the World, this one and that one, memorable. I still think about your documentaries.
Oh, thanks.
Just because of the fun you have watching them.
Thanks. Yeah. Documentaries can be, they could be a little slow and stale, and they're like, it's like journalism, which is great. It's totally great, but it's not like cinema. And so I'm often trying to figure out like how to make things that are more like the movie going experience.
All right, Christopher Moonlight Productions, filmmaker question. I've seen a good documentary that takes an obscure subject and makes it super exciting and engaging. Yet a bad one will take a popular one and make it boring. What is the trick to success?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say like, really getting in deep, and, I try to spend a lot of time. I really silo myself about trying to copy other movies. I just try to figure out a weird thing for me, which is if the subjects of the movie somehow were to make their own documentary on themselves, what would that look like as a documentary? And that sometimes guides how I make the movies. And it seems to works well in terms of like making stuff that kind of works.
And last question as we wrap up.
Okay, ADL is 24. With tree houses and clubhouses for kids becoming a thing of the past, have current generations of youth lost the imagination and sense of adventure needed to make such a space exist?
It's kind of true. So many kids are just kind of don't even think about that sense of adventure, that sense of exploration. And, so many kids grew up making forts and tree houses and clubhouses. And that's also seems like something that's kind of like we've lost a little bit. And, there's a book that keeps on popping up. People bring up in Q&As about this movie. I forget its title, but it's that one where the kids are living in the museum, the mixed up files of whatever. And I think there's like a real fantasy now with people. Like Chris, you touched on it at the top about like people like finding a space and like being, by themselves and that idea. And I think that whole thing is starting to get lost with some kids.
Go to secretmallapartment.com for a list of theaters playing the movie. It's at the Alamo Drafthouse in LA, and I'm going to see it this weekend.
Awesome.
Cannot
Yeah, it's at a
wait.
lot of Alamos. So like Alamo's really supporting us, and it's playing at Alamos all over the country too.
I love Alamos. They just bring the food to where you're sitting.
That's pretty good. And the drinks.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us on the show, taking time out. And I can't wait to see the movie. Alan literally has been talking about this.
Thanks, Alan. You're the best.
Again, there are movies, you see a lot of movies at festivals, and if you remember the one you love the most, it's a great movie. And
thanks, Alan. So awesome. So awesome to be here. I had a blast.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. Come back when your next movie comes out.
I will.
Cool. All right. Take care. Have a great weekend.
All right, see you around.